Hey everyone, it's Scott from SB for Photos, and today we're going to talk about charging at home with the Sigenergy 7 kilowatt AC charger. Quite a straightforward process really. We're going to use the Kona and the Highlander Mitsubishi as examples in the charging today, but this is the Hyundai Kona. The top one is your AC plug and the bottom is the DC. Here it is plugged into the car with a 7-meter cable. For this particular AC charger. This app here is called Sunseeker, and it's a really good app to kind of know where the sun's going to be during the day if you find fascinating stuff like that interesting. If you don't, quite understandable. But also I just wanted to show you later afternoon when I charged the Hyundai, just the sun placement to where the main panels are on the side of the house. All right, let's get into the app. Now this is for the same setup basically for the Mitsubishi Highlander. I just want to go through and show you. Now it does charge slower. It'll only charge at a maximum of 3.5 kilowatts. You can scroll up down the bottom there, you can see real-time info. It is definitely a slower charge, but the reason why I'm showing you this is also because one question in the last comments was about charging off surplus solar. So as you can see, you can go into the settings and you can tell it whether to utilize the battery first or the AC charger, to where to distribute the energy. It's a whole range of stuff that you can read about in the app. It is a bit buggy. Sometimes you might say that it hasn't changed the settings, but it has. This time it actually did work. Now I'm using PV surplus charging. As you can see, it's around 12 o'clock or 11:54 in the morning. The house battery was already full and it was an overcast morning. Just wanted to show you my stake there. So that's the kind of conditions that you can see that it was when we were actually doing this. It was a really good porterhouse steak from the butcher. Just wanted to show you that again. You will find that obviously cloud coverage, as you would know, in solar makes a bit of a difference, and just to really show you that steak. But afternoon it did get nice and clear, which is the Sunseeker footage from before. But this will give you a really good example of not enough solar power to start charging. Now, it can drop off quite quick as you are charging during the day, and it will tell you each time that the sun drops out. It doesn't take much. The house was using 3 kilowatts. I think maybe someone was cooking on the inside. And then you can see for some reason the house was using up to 5, but the solar was also generating 10. So it took a little while to kind of come back, which then it starts again. But I do find, I just get paranoid about having it stop start and all that kind of stuff. So I did stop it, and then I'm going to go back through and change it back to a different setting. So as you can see, it has started again. Give it a refresh and the panels are back up to 10 kilowatt. And then it dropped back down to 3 because just as I said that, it started getting cloudy and then it wanted to start importing from the grid. I believe it's called a handshake, where it just wants to kind of connect to the grid to kind of say, yep, I'm still here. Now, charging mode, we can change different things. My usual standard is I like to go battery boost and fast charging. So you can see we're back now into fast charging and it's gone straight back up to 3.4 kilowatts, and then it will start delivering the energy again. Like I said, being that it is a slower car to charge, it does take a little bit longer. Okay, and obviously now we have some message center notifications where it tells you what's happening with the system. Let's go back. Okay, so now I'm going to show you basically the same thing, but this is with the Hyundai Kona. It charges at 7 kilowatts maximum. And let's see now. Obviously the house is curtailing because it's 1.8 kilowatts. That's all the house was using at the time. Now I'm going to go through and change it back to fast charging with a battery boost. So that way it's always making sure when it gets close to the afternoon, we want to make sure that we're not using electricity from the grid, because it can jump from anywhere from like 4 cents up to 30 cents quite quick. All right, so we've just started on the charge. It's gone straight up to 7.1 kilowatts, and you can see I've got it set to 30 amps. I was told 30 amps is probably not to run it at full 32. So let's go back and see now. So you can see now that basically if you added the solar and the house equals 7.6. So it's once again still curtailing, and there's enough energy to not have to pull from the grid. or use the battery. All right, let's now go into Amber and have a look. So we can see that for the next hour, it's going to be approximately around 3 to 4 cents per kilowatt. And then pretty much at around 4 o'clock, it's going to jump up to 20 cents. So that's a pretty big difference. So I didn't need to charge the car. I just put it on for the hour just to make this video. And of course I did forget to turn it off at 4 o'clock, but I'll also go through and show you what that massive cost was. Curtailing, if I was feeding back into the grid, it would be costing me 1 cent for every kilowatt that I put back into the grid. And that's why it's a great thing with Amber and Sigenergy. Let's go into my Amber settings, earnings optimizer, solar curtailment. Also do make sure you check with Amber if your inverter or your brand is able to do solar curtailment, as not everything does. Maximum reserve level, I've got it down to 15 kilowatts. We can go through and have a look at the last couple of days of how much money I would have made or also spent. So as you can see, the weather has been a little bit up and down, and some of those days might also be recharged at night time. Honestly, I don't remember. Also keep in mind that these aren't including any of your usage fees, but you can get a good idea of basically what the week was, of how much you've used when, and what those ballpark costs, and it will actually give you an update as you go through your real-time costings for the month, what your bill should, particularly what your bill could be. All right, 4:16. So as you can see, I forgot to stop the car. So we're now into the 20 cents, there we go, 35 cents. So you see how much that kind of spiked. Solar selling back would be 12 cents. And now if we go, close that one. Let's go back into the Sigenergy app. Cool, so as you can see, it's now only using 2.2. It is using the battery to charge that 6 kilowatts. So I'm just gonna go through and just double check. I'll turn battery boost off. It does take a little bit, probably like 10-15 seconds sometimes to update from the server to go back up to motherland, wherever that is, up in the clouds, to talk to Amber and start importing from the grid as well, so please keep that in mind. And then eventually it will start importing from the grid. And there we go, it's now started to import 5.95 kilowatts from the grid, and that would be at the 36 cents per kilowatt that it's importing, which is still a lot cheaper than going to the petrol station. So I'm just going to go back into this. I'm going to stop charging. It'll tell you how much you've charged. Congratulations. And then eventually, once it refreshes, it will stop importing. It tells you that the car is plugged in. And then goes back to just curtailing. That's into the settings. You can see it's on VBP through Amber. So overall, I like to keep fast charging on with battery boost, and that is how we are charging at home.